Ebonee's creativity.
Hey everybody, I'm Ebonee. This is Ebonee's Creativity. Thank you so much for joining me here on my channel. Did you come here for a furniture flip? Because I've got one for you. It's been a little while, but I'm back with what you guys want, clearly. And we're going to get right into this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Here's the piece that we're going to be working on together in this video. And would you believe I got this piece for free? I do have a video on my channel about how to score free furniture if you're interested in starting to flip or if you need to acquire some furniture for your house. So I will link that in the iCard above and in the description box below. So let's do a little tour of this piece. All the drawer pulls look great. They have a really beautiful patina on them and they are all present, which is a miracle for something somebody was just getting rid of. Another miracle, inside the drawers is clean. Look at that. Can you believe it? I sure couldn't. Really nothing wrong with this piece at all. All the drawer pulls are in place. All the drawers slide easily. Everything is in great condition. But I'm going to modernize it a little bit because I think that trim on the bottom makes it look really old and I don't like it. The biggest issue with this is this broken piece right here on this drawer, so we will address that. And a bunch of dirt on the top. But I can't complain about a little bit of dirt when I got this for free. And I think it's going to be a beautiful flip. So there's just two little areas right here that have to be sanded that I can automatically see through the dirt. But hey, the rest of this is just dirt. And little dirt never hurt. I'm going to wash it up and make it really beautiful. So let's get going. One thing that I know that I'm going to replace is this back panel on the dresser. It made a huge mess in my truck, and look at it. Whenever you touch it, it just flakes off. I don't know what kind of asbestos. I don't know what the heck that is, but we're going to replace that. And also, like I said, this little cracked piece on the front of this drawer. So I'm going to remove that, and we're going to start out by repairing this drawer front. We've never done this here on the channel, so I was excited to try something new. I've got this quick wood from Home Depot and the instructions say to sand down the area and clean it. So that's what you see me doing here, giving it a rough sanding and then just wiping it down with some simple green. I'm going to take more than I need to fill this little area and just kind of work it together. There's like a little white dot in the middle and it's kind of like tan around the edges. And it smells really bad, so I probably should have been using gloves during this, but I worked it together really well until it started to look like one color. And I just kind of set it on there and just really, there's no better way to describe it instead of just saying I just went for it. If you're a newbie working with this product like me, my best tip that I learned was to use more than what you need. That way you have some wiggle room when you go to do your sanding and your final finishing of it and making everything smooth, so that if you make it too small, then you give yourself very little wiggle room to get it right. So I just wanted to put much more than what I would need. I wanted to make it much thicker than what I would actually need if I was like a pro at dealing with this product. And I just got this little card, using it for like a flat edge, and I'm just using my fingers in the card and just trying to get the larger corner, and then as you can see right here, there's a smaller corner inside the inset of the drawer front. So I'm just kind of roughly carving out, doing this kind of just on a whim. Don't really have a technique, but it seemed to work just fine. It wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be, so that was really good. So I'm just, again, using this card and just trying to make a straight 90-degree angle where my edge would have been had it not been broken off. And I'm doing that on the smaller square here and then on the larger one on the outside. So it doesn't look perfect right now as I'm finishing it, but I'm well aware of that. I just wanted to get the general shape, and then I knew that once I went into sand, I could smooth it out and get it exactly how I need it to be. So after working it for a while, this is how I decided to leave it. And then I did turn it around and kind of try to smooth it out because I was afraid that if I left a big bump here on the back, that when I went to push the drawer into the frame of the dresser, it wouldn't sit
flat and it wouldn't be flush with the frame. So I did also want to turn it around and make sure to smooth out the back. Up next, I am cutting my hardboard, which is the piece that I'm going to be using for that back panel. So I am just using my level to get a straight line. And then I am going to go to my saw and try to cut this, and then disaster will strike, but we're going to talk about that in just a few seconds. Now, as you can see, my miter saw, which is the one that I'm most comfortable with, could not cut this long piece of hardboard all the way. I got a flap on each end, but it did not go all the way. So here at Ebonee's Creativity, I do chit chats, thrifting videos, home decor, DIYs, furniture flips, trash to treasures, all different kind of things. And now we are going to also venture into math. So when you see me and you see a circular saw, just know that is the formula for disaster. I am not comfortable with this circular saw at all. I think I have made one straight cut with it since I've had it. It's very intimidating to me. I think I need some clamps or a partner to hold this for me. I was scared that I was going to cut through the top of my dresser, so I kept flipping it up, which was messing me up every time I would try to stop and start cutting, and it was just a hot mess. Also, I clearly did not learn my lesson from the last time I got wood stuck in my eye, so I do not have on any safety goggles when I should have. But as you can see, I finally got a piece off. It's not 100% straight, but it'll work, so yay. So I just did my best to clean up all the edges, and then I worked on the backing piece. Typically, I would not have removed this before sanding because then all the sanding dust will get inside, but I wanted to be able to take this in the house, so I just removed that, and here's what it looked like afterward. Up next, I'm removing this bottom piece of trim, and then here is what it is looking like after that is removed. Now I'm going to try something new. So I got this project board piece of wood from Lowe's, and I am going to try to make this the new bottom of the dresser. I want to do like a unique feature on the bottom of this dresser, so I'm going to need to remove the front two legs here. I'm also not a professional with the jigsaw, but I do feel a wee bit more comfortable with the jigsaw than the circular saw. So I'm going to take that and just kind of in phases remove these legs. I'm going to take the big chunk off first, as big as I can, and then I'm going to go in and try to make a little ridge and do a little bit of detail work with this saw. So I'm going to just let you watch kind of what I'm doing here. So that went relatively well, and I was able to remove both of these front legs. So here's what they look like removed. Now you can see I'm left with kind of some pieces that are not level. I'm showing you here where I want it to be leveled off at. So I'm just going to go back in with the jigsaw and kind of hack away at it until I'm able to get it as level as possible. Then I'm going to come in with my wood filler and just use that to fill in the areas where I got a little carried away and make sure that when I go to sand, everything is filled in and smooth. I'm going to need a small piece of wood to put where those legs once were, so I'm just showing you here. I cut a 1x2 in half lengthwise, and keep that piece in mind because I'm going to be coming back to it later. Then I moved on to my staining of the legs that I bought from Home Depot. These are not my favorite legs, but I think it turned out cute in the end. I'm just showing you my technique here. I've put holes in an old box that I don't need, and that way I'm able to kind of just spin this around in the hole and make sure that I get all sides. So this is a good technique if you have circular items that you want to stain that have like a thing that you screw in. I forget what it's called. It has treads that you can screw into something, or any kind of something that you can get down in this box. This is a great method for staining or painting circular things. Find something that you can stick it onto and then just kind of spin it around. Had I been thinking, I would have done it from the bottom up so that my fingers wouldn't be in the stain right now, but it's okay. My hands are full of stain and paint all the time, so what's new? But yeah, here's my technique. Like I said, I got these legs from Home Depot. I think they were around $4 or $5 each, which I thought was a good price. And they will be really useful in helping me lift this dresser up. I wanted it to be taller. I wanted it to go from kind of wimpy to more of like a statement piece in a room. So bringing it further up off the ground is a great way to do that. So I'm showing you here. I'm using Jacobean stain. I think that's how you say it. Jacobean, I don't know. And then I'm just using the lint-free rag and just wiping off the excess. These legs took to the stain really well, so that was really great news for me. Up next, I'm moving on to staining using the same stain and the same foam brush, and I'm just gonna do both sides of this. One side will face the ground, but sometimes when you don't paint things that face the ground, you can see the raw wood. If you're far back and you walk up on a piece, you can kind of see that it's unfinished on the bottom. So I just did both sides. Also, I did not know how this panel would take the stain, and I wanted to make sure that I had a choice between which side was the best. So I went ahead and did both sides and in the edges to make sure that I have two options to choose from when I see how the stain finally ends up on here. It may have been a good idea to use the wood conditioner, which I do have. I don't know why I didn't use it, but I was able to get one nice side, so I was fine with that. Look at my struggle, you guys. Look at all that pollen and all those flowers blowing off the trees. You guys, I need a workshop like yesterday. Jeez, I'm just trying to do my furniture flip for you guys, and you see all these flower petals and pollen landing on my stuff. Jeez, I can't catch a break, but nevertheless, I was able to get a nice coat of stain on here, and I was able to persist, and now we are going to move on to the next step, which is to wipe off the excess stain, and then we're going to do more math. So although I was able to cut the length off of this on my miter saw, which I already showed you, there's still too much depth to it, and I need to cut that down. So now we are back at the circular saw, which is my least favorite place to be, and I'm just trying to get a straight line, but this saw will not let me be great. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab my safety goggles because stuff is shooting at my face at this point, and I'm just going to keep hacking away at this until I'm able to get some semblance of a straight line. It doesn't have to be 100% straight, but I'm looking for at least 90%. This piece will be in the back, so it's not that pertinent that it be, you know, laser straight, but I like my pieces to look finished. I like everything to be 100%. So this circular saw, I don't know, I just can't. I thought I had it straight, but as you can see here, it still wasn't straight. So I'm just gonna keep hacking away at it, and you can just laugh at my pain at this point. Then I used my sander to try to smooth that out, as well as the area in the front where I removed the legs. I flipped this upright, and I noticed one area that needed filling, so I also added some wood filler to that little spot as well. Went in with some 40 grit sandpaper just to clean up all the areas except the area that I just filled. And here's when I'm about halfway done. Then I went back and got that area that I filled. Then I went over this with some 120 grit sandpaper, followed by 220 grit sandpaper. And once I finished with all my sanding, here's how the top looked. Up next, I'm just going to be removing the drawer pulls. So I used my drill and a hand screwdriver because some of them were not coming out with the drill. And then I moved on to my scuff sanding. So I'm just using 220 grit sandpaper for that. And I'm going to scuff up everything so that my primer will be able to stick better. Next, we're going back into the drawer that I used that quick wood on, and I'm just sanding that smooth. I'm using a combination of my orbital sander as well as a sanding block for that smaller area, and I'm just trying to clean this up as well as I can. Took me a minute, but I finally got a technique, and so I think it turned out pretty good. Here's how it turned out. At first I was going to paint the edge, but then I decided to stain that as well, so I went back in and sanded that. And now I'm going to clean everything up with some simple green. And for the inside of my drawers, I'm using my vacuum and getting all the spiders out and all the dirt. Next, I'm going to move on to staining the top piece. Doing this inside is definitely not preferred, but gotta do what you gotta do. Sometimes we can't get a break with this weather. So once I got done staining, I moved on to priming. I'm going to be using the Ben primer that I always use and a microfiber roller. And I have this Dollar Tree paint pan, and I'm just going to show you two different techniques that I use to paint drawer fronts. The first one is to get a good nice coat on the flat part, and then go around, use the tip of the roller and go around the beveled piece on the outside of the drawer front. So that's what I'm doing here. Either method really gives me the same results, doesn't really matter, but I did a nice good coat on the flat part, and now I'm hitting the beveled edge with the end of my of my roller, so you can see that here. One thing I want to point out, when you're using this bend primer, if you allow it, dries really fast, so if you allow it to dry even a little bit and you try to go over it, you're gonna pull up the first coat that you did, and it's going to start getting thick and chunky. I'll show you an example of where I did that. It's really tempting if you see an area that you missed on the first pass to go back and get it, but just wait till you get to the second coat, because this stuff will clump up and then you'll have to do more sanding, then more cleaning, so it kind of prolongs your process. So when you're using the bend primer, get as best coverage as you can on the first pass and try not to go over any areas. Like I said, I have a clip of what happens when it gets chunky and then it starts to look bad and you can't paint on top of that. So just take my word for it. Do one pass, make sure your roller is saturated. Just do one good pass and then wait to the second coat to get any areas that you missed. You might notice that your first coat is not opaque at all. It probably will look patchy and bad, but you can do another coat after this completely dries. You don't want to keep going over it. After about 5 minutes, it's just going to start to get chunky and thick and look terrible. So you see me trying to move pretty quickly here and just get a nice good first coat, because within a few minutes it's going to be drying. Here I'm just showing another technique of doing the outside beveled edge first and then doing the flat front. And here is how everything looked after the first coat. Everything looked pretty good, so I was cool with that. You can see it's not completely smooth and there is some texture left over from the roller, but that's okay. We can clean that up later. At least it's flat and it didn't get chunky on me. You can see I'm pointing out to you the areas that I missed, but I'm okay with that. You can see here on this corner, that's where I started to go over it after it started to dry and it just got chunky, so you wouldn't want to do that. And you can see on the side of here that it is not covered well at all. Not missed, but it didn't take in several areas. So I'm fine with that. Just leave it. It's tempting, but don't do it. Here's how it looked after the second coat of bend primer. So you can see it's much more opaque. Still not completely flat, but we can sand that out later. You wouldn't want to worry about that right now. Next, I'm going in with my simple green and I'm just showing you how I cleaned up the drawer pulls. I let them soak for a few minutes and then I just wipe them down.
Okay, so everything is all prepped and I'm ready to get started painting. I'm going to show you the paint that I'll be using, and it's this Fusion mineral paint. A little bit different from chalk paint, much thinner, easier to apply, also cheaper. Now this is 16.9 fluid ounces and it was 20 bucks. However, that might seem like a lot for such a small container. However, when I factor in the price of the Waverly paint or some of the cheaper chalk paints, let's take the Waverly paint. It comes in a 16 fluid ounce container for about $11. But then you have to buy the top coat. The polyacrylic is normally about like 17 bucks, 18 bucks, I think. So when I factor in the fact that this has a top coat already built in and it dries to a really hard finish, so you don't have to top coat it, which I probably will do anyway, but it's not necessary. I will only do that because I'm selling this piece. But for home use, I probably wouldn't top coat it. As you can see, it says you can go from foundation to finish in one step. So it's a beautiful paint. It dries really hard, which is really great for us furniture painters and for you at home. Great to paint cabinets, great to do a myriad of other projects with. I'm just gonna top coat it with the polyacrylic for extra security, but it's not necessary for home use or light use. So yeah. I've tried this on another project. I really like the finish. I think it's a beautiful paint. And the color that I'm using is called Cathedral Taupe. So that's the paint that I'm going to be using. And let's go ahead and get started.
So since this is a thinner paint, like I said, I did just use a sanding block and knock back some of that texture that the bin left. But when you're using a thicker paint, sometimes you don't have to do that, and the thickness of the paint will hide the little slight texture that the bin left. But in this case, like I said, I did sand it just using a sanding block. Then I wiped everything off, and now I'm here with my paint. So this is a really beautiful color of paint. And you can see me doing my same old technique here, kind of hitting the beveled edge first and then flicking my wrist forward and backward, trying not to go over the same area too many times, trying to just give it one good swipe for coverage and one good swipe for smoothness, and that's it. So here I'm still just painting along. Didn't take very long at all and did not use a lot of paint, which is good. It's a really, really nice paint. You should try it if you can. Here I'm painting up the frame of the dresser, and as you can see, just going back and forth, same old technique. Flick your wrist, move it back and forth. Don't go over the same area too many times. I know those of you who watched my flips from the beginning like the fact that I do everything on a low cost. I have started to level up only because I am selling stuff, and I have to make sure I keep up with the competition. So I'm showing you a new product now, but all of these extra products and high-end things that I show are just options, so remember that. You can still totally get beautiful paint jobs on the cheap, like I showed you in all the furniture flips from the beginning of my channel. So this product is called Wise Owl Furniture Salve, and it just makes everything smell divine. And while I'm selling products, I want to appeal to as many of my customer senses as possible. So I am using their sight, of course. They're going to see it and love it. They're going to feel it and it's going to feel smooth. And this Wise Owl product is for appealing to their sense of smell because it smells amazing. It comes in a couple different scents, but mine is in cactus blossom, but it smells so good that they will not be able to resist these pieces. So you just wipe it on, you buff it on, and that's it. And I like to do it on inconspicuous areas. I don't put it inside the drawer because if people are like me and they have bad allergies, they may not want this on their skin, on their clothes, but it smells amazing. And so they can appreciate that, I'm sure. So I just wipe it inside the frame and on the sides of the drawers, and people love it. So once we finally got a break in the weather, I was able to take this back outside, carefully put it upside down, and use my nail gun to nail in both the backing piece and the bottom piece. These are pieces that you use to screw in furniture legs, and I got them from a previous project, but I didn't use them on that one, so I popped them out on this one and I just used my drill to screw them in. Then I was able to just use my hand to screw in the furniture feet. So after I got those on, I went back to that piece of 1x2 that I cut in half lengthwise, and I nailed that in place where the legs used to be. So after applying a coat of polyacrylic and reassembling everything, I am ready to show you the final reveal. And here it is. So I'm so glad I took a chance at adding the storage feature on the bottom of this. I think it can be used for shoes if this is in an entryway, for toys in a kid's room, maybe dolls, any kind of thing people want to store, even decor like I have it here. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I want to thank you so much for watching. I think it turned out great. Leave me a comment and let me know how you think it turned out. And I will talk to you guys in my next video. If you have the time, please select another one of my videos to watch from the choices that are on your screen. And I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye guys.